We made a rule that what happened in Amarillo would stay in Amarillo, and he broke that rule. So by the time this evening is over, you're going to find out a lot about Josh, and he's going to find out how the unemployment line works. There's like Sonic's like $82 an hour now. I'm pretty sure you're going to be seeing Josh at the drive-thru. He's so good. It's 1996, and I was a student at Kingwood High School. And if you're asking yourself, why are you starting off with a high school story? I'm that guy that can't let it go. 96, and I was running the last leg of the last race. Kingwood High School had won the district track meet 9 years in a row. And it wasn't just district, they were a juggernaut. They were Olympians from this team, national champions, countless district champions and state champions. It was incredible. And I was running the last leg of the last race. I was anchoring the mile relay team. And Coach came up to me, Coach Simpson, one of the greatest men I've ever met, and he said, hey, we can't get third because this meet is uncharacteristically close. And we both laughed together, like, we won't get third. It was just about how far I was going to win. And then the gun went off. And Sam, who was my buddy Sam, took off on the first leg, and he ran a good first leg. And then he handed it off to Chris, and Chris is the best high school athlete I've ever met in my life. He was real good. But he's also a head case, as often good high school athletes are. And one day he's going to be watching one of these streaming things. He's just going to show up in my house, and then you're going to read about me in the paper because he'll kill me. The cool thing about this new job I have is I can just use people's names. It's so great. If you're mean to me, it's super on forever. Chris ran the greatest leg I've ever seen him run. It was unbelievable. And then they handed it to David. If you know anything about relay races, you always hide your slowest leg in the third leg. And they handed it to David, who proceeded to run the race of his life. I've never seen anything like it. And so I was expecting to get the baton in third or fourth place, which would be fine. I just needed to be close to the pack. And then David just started picking people off the back stretch, and I was watching him. And if you've ever seen a relay, they're moving you forwards and back. It's all chaotic, and the coaches are excited. Everyone's yelling, and moms and dads are screaming, and the stands are packed. It's a Super 5A school in Houston. It's packed. It's a big thing. And then David is just running smoke. And then I start getting excited because it's not about how we're going to win and we're going to get this decade sweep. It's going to be how can I embarrass these people, because I love humiliating other human beings. And so David comes in. We'll use this. David comes in running the race of his life. And I got off, and this is not a blind exchange, right? You watch it. You hand it to him. It's like handing someone a piece of bread, right? And he handed me the baton, and I took off. And I ran the greatest leg of my life. It ended up getting me a track scholarship, and it was remarkable. The stands, they flooded the field. It's one of the most remarkable moments of my life at 18 years old. And the only catch is that's not how it happened at all. Here's what happened. Sam, good leg. Chris runs out of his mind. David runs bonkers. David was in my wedding. I was in his wedding. He's one of my close friends. And he ran as fast as he could go, and a little bit faster. And I was ready to go as fast as I could go. And he let the baton go, and I grabbed it, but I didn't. And it hit the track, that rubber track, and it bounced up and hit the guy in second, running right by him. Hit him in the shin, and it kicked all the way out to lane 6 or 7. So we went from first place to 7th place like that. And the guys are going, and I picked it up and I ran as fast as I could. And I did run the fastest leg of my life. And we got 4th. And we lost by 1 point. 9 years. And then, some of y'all may have heard this. In 3rd grade, there was this girl that I loved. And her name was Rhonda. I loved her with all of my heart. And she was beautiful and stunning and had curly red hair. And I've been married to the same woman for 20 years, but if Rhonda calls, things are going to get dicey in my house. And I just saw them playing, and I loved her. I loved her. And when you're a kid and you love somebody, you are mean, and you push and you pinch or whatever. And I saw them playing after school, and I ran to go join a game of tag that I wasn't even invited to, which reminds me a lot like dating when I was in high school and college. I just ran into it, and I saw Rhonda, and she was running, and I was running, and I went to tag her, but I didn't tag her. I kind of just pushed her with 3 fingers. I still remember it. and she was right up against the wall, and she hit the wall, and then she stood up, and she'd broken both wrists. One was a compound fracture, and I was 9, and I remember thinking, not good, right? Then, this is like 5 years ago. I was the dean of students at Texas Tech School of Law, right down the street here. And my schedules were so packed on certain days, it would be meeting. My admin would put bathroom breaks in there for me. I just need 6 minutes to go in and out, right? And so meeting. And one day I talked too much. It was meeting, going, talking. I got out of a meeting. It's like, I'm going to be late to this next one. I gotta go. And then my mom texted me, which was super weird because she's 100 and she doesn't I had a text from my mom, so I sprinted into the bathroom. I'm in a suit, a full suit. I'm at a law school, and I'm texting my mom back, and I don't want to be crude, okay? But I undid my belt. I'm texting my mom, and I start going. And here's the thing. I got the belt part. I just didn't undo the pants part. And this is like on a Tuesday, like at 11 in the morning. And I felt it. And then, just like Lloyd Christmas, I just let it go, man. And here's the thing. I was going to take my suit pants off and I was going to put them in the trash. I didn't know what to do. I'm a grown man. But here's the thing. If I had taken my pants off and put them in the trash, I was the guy that people came to when they found pants in the trash. And they would have brought me my own pea-soaked pants and said, somebody's had a problem. And so I just walked straight out the door and walked straight to the parking lot, got in my car and drove home. I didn't even call anybody. I didn't text anybody for a while. I just was driving home. And this is so awesome. I walked home and my wife was there. And she's like, what are you doing home? And I said, I just peed in my pants. And I just walked straight to my bedroom, and she just was doing something, and she goes, okay, like nothing. Nothing surprises. And then a few months ago, I was trying to find my keys. I lose everything. I was trying to find my keys. And I told my son we were going fishing, and he's 11. His name's Hank. He's incredible, man. He's just like a gift. And I had told him, like, hey, let's go fishing. I was like, great. He gets all the stuff, and I'm trying to find my keys. And he's like, hey, Dad, are we going? I was like, yes, I've got to find my keys. Are we going? Dad. Finally, he said, hey, Dad, are we going to go fishing or not? And I turned and said, well, you shut up. I got to find my keys. And he's 11. And he got that look. If you're a parent, you know that look when they're like, whoa, sorry. And it's these stories. Right? These stories of when I did good, these stories of when I didn't do so good, when I won, when I lost real big, when I embarrassed myself, when I got the big job, when I applied for the job and didn't get it. I've applied for way more jobs I didn't get than ones I did. It's these stories, and we all have stories. Everyone in this room, the stories you were born into, the stories you were told, and the stories, these are the weird ones, the ones you tell yourself, right? And so in 2010, I had just left working here. Me and Josh used to have the same job. This place was way more stable now than it used to be. I went to work at Abilene Christian down the street. I just graduated with my PhD. I thought I was the fanciest guy who'd ever lived. And I was pretty good at my job. I was good. And I wanted everybody to tell me that I was good. I wanted to be really awesome at the work I did, and I wanted people to tell me I was awesome. And so I was crushing it with working out in spirituality, in like super Jesus freak. What would people say if they knew, right? And over and over and more meetings, more customers, more students. Hey, how do we figure out this? Let's build this. Let's correct this over and over. And then I started partnering with local police. And I started riding around with police officers, helping out with death notification, doing crazy stuff, right? In the middle of the nights and in the mornings. And then I started showing up to hospitals 2-3 nights a week with students who were struggling, who were sick. Then I started having to call parents and say, hey, your kid's no longer with us. 24/7, 365, I was on call for year after year after year. My wife was a professor at ACU also. She was 1,000 times smarter than me. And we were both working there, and I started not being so well. We had sold our house because I had thought I had timed the next market collapse. That sounded good. And we moved into a dorm, me and my wife. I'm the associate dean at ACU. I'm also a graduate school professor because anytime someone would ask, I would just say yes. Hey, will you do this Sunday school class? Absolutely. Hey, you got accepted in this Harvard program. You want to go to Harvard? Yep, I'm in. Hey, can you lead this college ministry? Yep. Hey, can you roof the house? Why not, dude? I would, whatever. Because I was going to make it happen. My wife was a professor. I was a professor and an administrator. And we were making more money than my grandparents could have ever wrapped their head around. Good people here at Lubbock, Texas, and watching. I won. And I absolutely lost my mind. I lost it. And I'll never forget one day, I was walking to work across campus, and I just stopped. I didn't tell anybody where I was going, not my wife, not my boss. By this point, I was over so many people and so much stuff, I could have not gone to work for a week as long as I answered my cell phone. No one had even asked. So many people and budgets and stuff and buildings and departments and divisions. Delony's got it. And I got in a car, my wife's little Corolla, and I left Abilene, Texas. I didn't tell anybody where I was going, and I drove here. And I don't know if he's in the audience, but I walked straight into a friend of mine's office. His name is Dr. Jeff Smith. And I was the guy back then. I was electric. I was like, "Ah," all the time. And so I walk in, he's like, "Delony, what's up?" And I said, "Hey, I'm not okay, and I think I'm losing my mind." And something about that way I said that, he said, "Hey, man, sit down. Let's talk. What's going on?" And that was the first time in my life I had spoken, not from here and not from here, but from here. And Jeff made me feel listened to and safe. And I started talking and talking and talking. And here's the thing. I was spun out and exhausted and totally fried. And over the last 20 years, especially the last 6 or 7, I started researching people who'd made it. Doctors, lawyers, fancy pants preachers, college presidents, business leaders. And I've been coaching them and counseling them all over the country behind closed doors. And I've worked with thousands of high school students and college students and their parents for the last 2 decades. And as I've listened to moms crying in my office, "I don't know which major to pick for my kid, and if they don't pick the right major, we're all gonna..." The last 3 jobs I have did not exist when I worked at when I was a student here. They just keep changing, right? Or dads yelling and screaming when I talk to students and they're like, "I just got to find my calling. God hid it from me and it's somewhere because I only have one. And I just got to find my calling. Where's my calling? And my purpose and my passion, I can't find it." And when I'm sitting with an executive who's got more money in his bank account than I will ever be able to wrap my head around, and his marriage is a vapor. It's gone. It's over. And he doesn't know what to do next. Or when I worked with Dr. Andy Young, who's one of the most important men who's ever lived in my life, in this city, riding around, sitting with widows and orphans in the middle of the night, hugging a mom so tight, and she's hugging me back and I can't breathe because her child has passed away in the room right there. And then I'd go home and I'd look in the mirror, and this one thing became stark and true, so clear. Winning won't make you well. And we are obsessed with winning, right? We've got strategic plans and lasers and all the right internet sites, right? And the killing it in efficiencies, and I got to get the right job in the right place, and I got to get the right house on the right street. And winning won't make you well. And here's another weird thing I've discovered. When you do win, when you are well, it doesn't mean everything's going to be good. A few months ago, my wife and I were sitting on our front porch in Nashville, Tennessee, on 7 acres in the woods. For those of y'all who live in Lubbock, in Tennessee, it's weird. They got these tall green things called trees. And like 3 days a week, water just falls from the sky. It's insane, right? But we're sitting on our place. There's chickens in the back, and we were holding hands on our front porch. And we were both crying our eyes out because some friends we love, their marriage is over. My wife and I haven't been on a date in a year with the busyness and with the COVIDs and when you can and you can't and the what are we going to do? Trying to help our parents, trying to help our families, trying to help our friends, trying to figure out what's next and what's next and what's next. And then, man, a few weeks ago, no, I guess it's a month or so ago now, a guy that drove to Lubbock, Texas one night, and we met over at Longhorn Steakhouse. I don't think that place exists anymore. And he said, I have a new picture in my head for what mental health and wellness can look like. I'm going to start this thing called a podcast. And I was like, what the heck's a podcast? That sounds stupid. And he's like, I'm going to do this podcast thing because I think the way we are learning about mental health and wellness and taking care of our bodies, I think we're not doing it right. I think we're missing everything because everybody's getting sicker and less well. And we talked, and I texted him, kind of like Josh said. I would text him all the time, and he helped me. His wife is an old, dear friend of mine. And just a few months ago, or a month or two ago, they were just driving in Abilene. He lives in Abilene. And some guy just clipped the back of his car, and it rolled over and over and over. And his wife got out, and the 3 little kids got out, and he didn't. And he's younger than me. Winning won't make you well. It won't fill up your bank accounts. It won't keep your mom from getting sick. It won't. Winning won't make you well. And here's the thing. We're so obsessed with it. And I've always wondered, why are we so obsessed with it? And here's the thing. We're so obsessed with it. In counseling, we call it the tyranny of accomplishing all your dreams. The worst part about getting a new job or a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend or changing your major, the worst part about all that is that you go with you. The worst part about I'm changing churches. My church is too fill in the blank, whatever, right? I don't know what their communion trays are the wrong color. I'm out, right? And you storm out and you go to another church and you go with you. We're breaking up. You're weird and you have funny teeth. And then you're going to find somebody else and he's going to have something weird too, right? You go with you. And so I got to wondering, what's wrong with us? Why am I worried about going with me? The answer to that question is pretty easy. Nothing. We are beautifully and wonderfully and intentionally made. Every person in this room. And so what's wrong? It's these stories, right? It's these stories. The ones that we're born into, we were told, and the ones that we tell ourselves. So here's the thing. I like to imagine stories as a backpack. We're all born with a backpack. And I've been this tall and handsome, incredibly good looking, let's be honest, since I was in 7th grade. This backpack right here is full of bricks, okay? We're all born with a backpack. And I was born in the state of Texas. My parents are still married. My dad was a homicide detective and a SWAT guy, so I learned at a young age. You get pulled over, you do this, and you say, yes, sir, and thank you, and I apologize for ruining your day, sir. And I learned all the rules. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom who then went back to college, and then she ended up getting a master's degree, and now she's a professor at some fancy-pants college, and she's 70. I learned how to do college. I learned how to do all the stuff. And my parents still love each other. They're all I didn't have a lot of bricks in my backpack. Some of you, though, do. Let's just listen to this. Tell me if this sounds familiar. I'm not going to try not to be weird. Okay. To see if these noises sound right. This is you waking up this morning and me. Raise your hand. Liars, liars. These stories are bricks, and we carry them around with us. And some of them aren't that big of a deal. Some of them are small bricks. Like, oh, you do Christmas like that? Or, why don't you brush your teeth? I thought everybody did that every day. Josh. My son, I've tried to raise him as a good punk rock kid. I've tried to teach him who like Metallica is and why they're important and what their names of their songs are. And then he moved to Nashville. And he found 95.5, 90s country. And now my son will come out of his room, Dad, have you ever heard of Garth Brooks? He's amazing. And I'll say, depart from me, I do not know you, right? Little bricks, tiny parenting failures, right? Anyway, some of these bricks are trauma. And my friend Lynn Jennings, Dr. Lynn Jennings, she's a professor over at the med school. She was one of my professors in grad school. She taught me something about trauma that I had no idea. So whenever I thought about trauma, I always thought it was this big thing, the big car wreck, right? Mom passes away, the divorce, the big thing. We all know what trauma is. Dr. Lynn Jennings' research was something called secondary traumatic stress. I never heard of it. And she gave me a magic word that I didn't know existed when it came to trauma. She said, trauma can be big. The nerd word is acute, right? The big thing. Or it can be cumulative. It can add up over time, little by little by little. And after a while, the weight of these things is the same. So you're 9, and your school counselor knocks on your school classroom door and says, hey, we need you to come down to my office. And she pulls you in and sits next to you and holds your hand and said, your daddy's had a heart attack, and he's passed away. That's a big T trauma, right? That's acute. Or you're 11, and you come down the stairs every day, day after day, year after year, and you come down and your mom's drinking coffee, and she looks at you, honey, you look pudgy in that shirt. We want you to be liked by the boys, right? Boys don't like pudgy. You want to be a pretty girl, don't you? And she just says, yeah, let's go change. Little T trauma. Little pebble after pebble after pebble. Or, hey, son, boom. You don't say that in my house, right? And he's 4. Big. Or, yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Sure, sweetheart. And all your 5-year-old little girl wants to do is have you look at her and see her. Little T. And it adds up, and it adds up. And over time, this thing weighs the same. And here's the thing. In recent years, we've learned about trauma. That trauma is less about the big event, and it's more about how our bodies react in the right now, like in the present. So it's less about what happened then and more about my body taking off on me right now, right? And so, check this out. We're running on ancient technology here. We only have 3 responses to stuff. We can fight it, we can run from it, or we can freeze. And that's about it. So when we get scary news, we go like this. What do? We fight it, or we run from it, we turn it up, or we freeze. How many of you know people who are angry all the time? All the kids are all raising their hand, and the parents are like, I don't know what you're talking about, yo. It's not me. Of course it's hard to do your algebra paper when you're carrying this stuff all the time. Of course it's hard. Of course it's hard to want to get up in Zoom school and back in school and home in school when all the adults in your life are telling you that everyone wants to kill you, that we're all going to die, it's all over, it's all good. And then you just say, okay, I'll just sit here while y'all be adults, right? Kids, am I right? Look, they're scared. You can see their eyes. They went like this, right? Of course you're anxious about the job market because we've told you there won't be any jobs left. Of course we told you about the future and tomorrow and. And if you're an adult, of course your knees hurt and your back hurts. And you and your spouse are sitting on a couch and you're 2 inches apart, but 2,000 miles away because you're on your device and he's on his. And we've just missed each other. And I don't think, we've tended to moralize this. I don't think we're bad people. I don't think we're broken. I think we're carrying around so much stuff. And why am I telling you this? Because you can't lead or love. You can't be a plugged-in parent. Young folks, you can't run through school and relationships and marriage and figuring out who God is and what the call on your life will morph into over time if you're just carrying this around. Parents, we've got to stop the rage. We've got to stop. Kids, we've got to put the screens away and say, I need to be a human again. How do I do that again? I don't know. We'll figure it out. We're carrying so much stuff. And here's the thing. Your childhood biography becomes your adult biology. So what does that mean? Your childhood biography becomes your adult biology. And we're finding out in the last few years that adults' experiences change our brains too. We used to think your brain was fixed, and then we learned about neuroplasticity, and now we're finding out that our brains change every minute. It changes every second with new relationships and new people that you see. I saw Josh Stevens earlier without a shirt on, and I have to go to church tomorrow to get that out of my soul, right? Like my brain has changed forever. And here's the thing. If you don't deal with your anger or your fear or your shame or your loss of a loved one, your body will continue to respond for year after year after year. And you'll fry the people that you love. You'll run through life exhausted thinking everybody's coming after you. Or you'll freeze. If you just watch my hands, you push all that stuff down, you depress it, and it stays there. And some of us, good folks, have been dead or dying inside for a long, long time. And this is young people and old people. And everybody in between, right? And so here's the thing. We're running and fighting everybody because in the modern world, our threats don't go away. We got the dings and the clicks and the masks and the no masks and the shots and the don't shots and what's going to happen. And now everything's and the sun is hot and then you're in love. What, I don't know what to do. And then your sister still needs help and your brother needs help. And mom keeps forwarding all of these conspiracy theory emails that she calls facts, right? The insider stuff that the news just won't tell us. I heard somebody say the other day, they're like, you're not just going to do your own research? And the guy responded, what am I going to Google that doctor doesn't know? He went to med school. He's like, bro, there's a dude in the trunk of a car with a YouTube channel. He'll tell you everything you need to know. He's got 7 followers, and bro, he's down. He knows. What are we doing? We're exhausted. We're fighting everything and everybody because we're carrying so much stuff around. Here's how you know your bag's too heavy. Okay, here's a couple of things. Number one, if you ever say the words, if they would just. If they would just. Once you say the word they, you have backed out of the world. You are now just a spectator with popcorn, and you're part of the problem. There is no they. It's all of us. If they would just, the world's too complex, there's too much messiness on it. When you distill the world down into that one little thing, you know, I need to go sit down and talk to somebody. Here's another one, okay? If you have no real relationships, if you're lonely in a crowded room, if you come home and every interaction with your spouse is, can you believe this person did this and that person and this person? Or if you're in high school and you just put your head down because somebody told you along the way you don't have any value. Or you're here at this extraordinary school. Like, I'm looking, man. If I let myself, I could get pretty teary. Because Todd is out there. And John, and Jennifer, and Melissa, and Josh, Caleb, some guys and men and women that I met here that still I call and say, I'm not okay. At this remarkable place. If you find yourself without relationships, without people here, that's how you know your bricks are too heavy, or your bag's too heavy, right? Weight gain, one more drink, one more drink, one more drink. If you drive in a 5,000-pound metal box down the road, and somebody in a smaller metal box gets in front of you too close, and you think, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're actually making yourself more angry, raising your blood pressure, your grip pressure. You're making your inflammation response in your body fire off. And that guy's just like, Bop, dip it up, I do. He has no idea. You're literally thinking, I'm going to kill myself sooner? That'll show him. What are you doing? What are you doing? Or here's the one that gets me, rumination. When I just keep having the same thought over and over, it strikes in my mind like a lightning bolt, and I just water that thing so it can grow bigger and bigger. It's like, man, the economy feels weird. We're just like writing $1 trillion checks. That sounds cool. That doesn't sound great. And then 6 hours later, I'm on the phone with I just want to sell it all. I'm going to put it all in Bitcoin, and I'm going to buy horses, and I'm going to invest in frogs because we're going to be eating them, evidently, and dog food. Like, what do you do, right? Ruminating. Or how many of you guys have conversations with yourself to other people that you will never have in real life? I'm just going to tell that dude. I'm going to tell that guy that he better just recognize, because you're not going to say that. How many of you, yes. When he asks me out, I'm just going to tell him, no, I don't think so. And then he's not going to ask you out. That's never going to happen. Or guys, you're like, if that dude just comes up to me, I'm just going to tell him, like, hey, what's up? We don't roll like that here. And the guy's like, hey, what's up? And you're like, hey, man, what's up? Have a good day. Hey, see you party on. Are you professionals? I know it. If I was running this thing, I'm going to tell him, I'm going to get in a room, and you're not going to tell any of that stuff. All you're doing is killing yourself, slowly but surely. The American Medical Association, before COVID in 2019, was the third year in a row that Americans are dying younger every year. And it's not from murder. It's from what they call diseases of despair. Loneliness, heart disease, liver disease, and addiction, suicide. People just saying, long tail, I'm out, right? I'm freezing. And so, what do we do about all this stuff? Real quick, we've become so obsessed with our little digital boxes, and we all think we're right, and we talk a lot. Here's what I want to tell you. We don't know. One of the things I promised to do when I took this radio job, I'm still trying to figure out what we're doing. I have like 6 friends. So the other day when I was in a meeting, and they're like, hey, you're at 6 million downloads. I was like, man, I think my mom and like Todd are just hitting refresh a lot. I don't have any friends. I don't know what to do with all this, okay? It's just monopoly numbers at this point. But man, I promised when I took this job I would tell the truth. So here's the truth. We don't know. And the computers are smarter than we are now, and it just tells us whatever we want to know. Whatever we think we are already leaning to, it will just send it to us. So when it comes to fill in the blank, here's the reality. We don't know. I know this. I know the kingdom of God is never in trouble. Ever. My friend Charlton told me that one time, and it resonated in my soul. The kingdom of God's never in trouble. So anything after that, I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll work with some scholars. We'll think about this. We'll work on that. We don't know. And here's what the world desperately needs of us right now. It needs us to be right. And we're not. We're just talking a lot, and we're Googling a lot, and we're scrolling a lot. In 1949, Egos Moniz, you know what he did? He solved mental health problems worldwide. He won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. He solved mental health crisis with this incredible procedure called a lobotomy. Who knows what it is? For those of you who don't know, how many of you had a COVID test? They take a metal spike and give you a COVID test with a giant metal spike. They put it up your nose, and they take a mallet and they whack on it until it pierces your brain, and then they wiggle it around and mess with your frontal lobe. Shockingly, people were kind of chill after that. He was wrong. He won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. He was wrong. Or, a few years ago, me and my wife have a rule. Any of our kids, I have a kid named Hank and a daughter named Josephine. Any kid asks any question, we'll answer them truthfully at any time. No, like, ooh, you need to ask your dad. No, that's not how we roll in our house. That's cool. So my son came in. He was younger. And he just said, I'm minding my own business, by the way. I'm just reading like a nerd. My son walks in and is like, hey, Dad, was like, yeah, what's up, buddy? And he said, I kind of know, but I don't fully know how sex works. And my wife was behind him, and she just goes, and just kept walking. And I was ready for this. I was ready for this conversation. And I'm not going to lie to you, I nailed it. It was incredible. I crushed it. I used hand signs. I did all of it perfectly. Perfectly. Then when it was over, my spiel, I thought to myself, I had just started this new job, and I thought, I should have recorded this for YouTube. And some parent can be like, I don't know how to do it. Let's ask Delony. And I would have nailed it. I would have paid off our house with this video. What an idiot. And then my son looks at me. He's a savant. He's brilliant. And he may be one of the kindest people ever. And he looked at me and had a kind of a puzzled look on his face. And he's like, okay, I taught doctoral classes at a Research One institution. I know how to teach. And he said, so sex is just when people rub their belly buttons together? And I was like, no! No! I gave you hand signs, bro. I nailed it. I was wrong. Or we spent years, man. We spent years. My wife and I trying to have kids. And we struggled, and we struggled, and we struggled. And lucky for her, by that time I was on the Lubbock crisis response team. And I was getting a second PhD in counseling. I was an expert in crisis. I was an expert in hurt feelings. And I was a grad student. There's few people more annoying on earth than grad students, but I was one. And so lucky for her, when she would cry, I could tell her, you don't need to cry about that. It's just your body. Or when she would weep and say, I had this picture of our family, I would say, no, let me tell you about what's happening. And when she would distance herself, I would say, hey, this is the right answer. This is how this works. And then I went to a counseling conference over here at Texas Tech. And one of the sessions was how to counsel women who've experienced miscarriage. And here's how arrogant I was. I thought, I'm for sure going to that because I'm an expert in that. And I can probably help the presenter. I thought that in my head. And I went in. And then to start off this session, as long as I live, I won't forget this. The woman was on like a whiteboard. And she turned and she said, by the way, y'all all know this, but here's the 7 things you never, ever say to a woman who's experienced this type of loss. And she rattled off number 1, number 2, number 3. And I was sitting at this table like, 4, 5. By the time she got to 6, I wanted to crawl under the table. And when she got to 7, I started crying. Because I had not only said all 7 of those things in my house, I had rubbed my wife's nose in it, in my charts, in my graphs, in my right answers. I told God and my family I would take care of one woman for the rest of my life. I was wrong. I hurt her bad because I was wrong. I was arrogant. I thought I knew. I looked up an article. I Googled something. Good folks, this isn't academic for me. I got an 11-year-old and a 5-year-old. I need us to get this right. They're inheriting whatever we're leaving them. And we're running around fighting, enraged, and running or numb. We've checked out because these stinking bricks. Let me tell you what's in mine. This one right here, it's embarrassing because it's from high school. That when everything's down on the line and Delony's standing there, I'll screw it up. That was like 25 years ago, and I still am like, Delony will screw it up to this day. I was a high school teacher and in Houston. I was a basketball coach and a high school teacher and a track coach. I used to show a worksheet and then show a movie and then show a worksheet and then show a movie and then show a worksheet and a worksheet and then a movie like coaches who teach. And I would show, do a worksheet, show Happy Gilmore, show take a test, Let's all watch Dead Poets Society, right? Whatever the thing is. Remember that scene in Dead Poets Society where the young man wants to be an actor, and his dad says, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And the young man says, I want to be an actor. And he says, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And he pulls him out of school, and that young man goes home and takes his life. And it's Hollywood. It's a movie. I showed that movie in class after a final exam one day. And final exam as a coach was 20 questions, right? Fill in like a bubble in, all A's, right? It's just like, it's a classic coach exam. Man, one of my star athletes went home that night. You want to know why I work in health and wellness 20 years later? Because that little boy's not with us anymore. And in my head, that's on me. And I know it's not. Man. Or I hurt kids. I broke a girl's arms. And now when my two little kids are running around, I always go, hey, because when kids play, somebody gets hurt. I still carry that around. I also carry this one. I was really, really good at kissing, and that's just a burden I have, so I keep this one. Like, I yelled at my kid, right? Am I the worst dad ever? No. Was I pretty bummed that time? Yeah. That was lame. Stupid. Who yells at an 11-year-old? Because you're ashamed that you can't keep up with your own stupid car keys, right? When I was at Tech, I was teaching a grad class and I left my cell phone on. I never leave my cell phone on. I don't even have it with me. It's one of my rules. One of my students, if my student's cell phone came on, I kicked him out of class. I had to leave. So imagine my surprise when I'm in front of the class teaching and my cell phone goes off. All the students are like, ah! So I stepped out in the hallway and I looked at it and it was the dad of one of my law students. And my heart's racing now. Stepped out and I called him and he said, we can't find him. So I sprinted across the campus. I was wearing a suit and a tie, sprinted across campus and met him at the residence hall and he wasn't there. So met the police at the residence hall and he wasn't there. So me and Dad were on the phone late into the evening. Apple and AT&T, whoever was tracking the cell phone, and they'd found the cell phone had been shut off 2 states over, and by an old camping ground that the kids used to play at when they were kids. And as a guy who worked in crisis, I knew this wasn't great, but it could be cool. So I went to bed that night. Next morning, I'm in my office. It's about 9 or 10 of them, and my cell phone rings, and it's Dad, and I answer the phone. I was like, hey, what's up? Oh my gosh, hey, we found him. They just turned the phone back on. I just got called from AT&T, and I was like, I little boy, I was in my office, like acting like a kid. I was like, ha ha ha. And he's like, we found him. And I was so excited, I was relieved. I was like, oh, and then my office phone starts ringing. I'm like, oh, hold on. And I answer this phone. I said, hey, this is Dr. Delony's office, what's up? So-and-so state trooper's office want to let you know that we found your student. And we just turned his cell phone back on. You know, when the state trooper turned on the cell phone, they notified Dad. And I was sitting in my office like this. And I found myself in this awkward, gritty, gnarly space, somewhere between hope and truth. So here's the deal. We all have found ourselves right here between hope and truth. And what we have to do, whether you're 14, whether you're 18, whether you're 10, whether you're 58 or 62, we've got to deal with the bricks in our backpack. Our families need us. Our communities need us. Our churches desperately need us. I need you, and you need you. Okay? So how do we do that? Here's the most annoying thing in the whole wide world. Whenever I go to something and they're like 5 ways to lose weight or 9 ways to get your marriage back and like 3 ways to drive a better car. If I ever hear that, I just immediately like, nope, I'm done. It's so reductive and dumb. Okay, it's silly. I hate people who do that. So I'm going to give you 5 things you can do right now to get these bricks out of your backpack, okay? Number 1, you got to examine them and demand evidence. And for most of us, we got to write it down. And these stories will come at you at random times and at weird places. My promise to you is over the last 2, 3, 5, 7 years, my heart rate doesn't get up anymore. It used to. It doesn't anymore. And I can carry a little journal with me like a geek, and I will write it down. Worst dad ever in Sprouts. Probably not, right? Or you were really not a great husband when you did this 3 years ago, 5 years ago. That's true. And God forgave me. My wife and I have already talked about it, and she's forgiven me. I'm moving on. Thanks for the reminder, body. And I set it down. Not carrying it anymore, right? You got to demand evidence. Is this real? Is this not real? Is it truthful? Is it real or is it real? Right? Are you the worst mom ever? No. I promise you're not. Could you be better? Yeah, probably. We all could. I'm not carrying that anymore. I'm not carrying anymore. Kids, young people, college students. Somehow along the way, we told you that there was something you could do to make God love you more. And that also meant that we told you there were some things that you could do to make God love you less. And on behalf of every adult in your life, I'm sorry that we told you that because it's not true. God loves you. And somehow along the way, we told you that you can achieve and accomplish and run down love. And as your parents, we were tired and exhausted and fighting our own fights, and I'm sorry. Your dad didn't hit you because something's wrong with you. He's struggling. Your mom doesn't ignore you because of something you did. She's struggling. On behalf of every adult in your life, I'm sorry. Parents, we got two choices. We can deal with these bricks in our backpack, or we're going to hand them to our kids. And they're going to have to deal with them. And my commitment to my Josephine and to my Hank is I'm not going to give it to them. I'm not. Here's the second thing. Whether it's race, pornography or drinks or any kind of addiction, all addiction does is it just wallpapers and duct tapes over our alarms, our anxieties and our depression, all that stuff. It's just a way to numb out and cover it up. And we know about those addictions. But you can also get chemically addicted to anger. You can get chemically addicted to being right, to having your ego challenged. You can get chemically addicted to anxiety, to where you just hold on to it. I don't want to deal with it because it keeps me safe, keeps me guessing. And so we have these list of addictions. Guys, we can get addicted to anything, any kind of numbing agent. Think of your life as a book, and so much of us, we have a pen, and we want to go back and edit things that already happened. I dropped the baton, period. I can't edit that sentence. A young man took his life in my high school class. I can't edit that. The world is begging us to stop trying to edit stuff, and they're begging us for what we're going to write next. What are we going to write next? That's the hope and the beauty. What are we going to write next? All right, here we go. Number 2, you got to make a plan to set them down. We've entered this weird space where these feel comfortable to us because it's what we know. Most of us have no idea what it'd be like to get up without chemicals, to go to bed without medicine. Most of us don't know what it'd like to walk through life without some sort of label. You've got anxiety, you've got depression, you've got this. You are broken in some way. Most of us don't know what it would be like to be able to exhale, to laugh from our guts, to forgive somebody who hurt us, right? You got to make a plan and set them down. And for some of us, that plan is going to counseling. I go to counseling now. My wife does too. It's super not fun if you go to a good one, but it's right. Some of us have to move our bodies and start eating differently. Some of us have to honor our bodies. Some of us have to go to bed and close our screens. Whatever that may be, make a plan and set them down. By the way, you're worth more than the dumbest thing you ever did. You're worth more than your biggest mistakes. And you're worth more than that thing they called you. I promise. I promise. Here's the third thing. You got to invest in relationships. In front of everybody, I want to say, Melissa, I love you. And Todd, John, Jennifer, I'm not here without those relationships. And when I showed up at Lubbock, Texas with long hair as a punk little 18-year-old kid, Dr. Beth Robinson, Andy Young, Lori Doyle, Susan Blassingame, Ken Jones, Dawn Williams, Jeff Carey, Some of those men and women I still talk to this day. They're my mentors. They're people who spoke into my life. And they said, that's not how we're going to be. That's not who you're going to be. We're asking you to be more and more. That paper's not good enough. Do it again. You have to invest in relationships. And for some of us who have traumatic childhoods, who've got trauma, relationships hurt. They're scary. But they're the only thing that will heal us. If you're alone and you're young, find a friend, find a mentor, find a school counselor. If your parents aren't safe, find somebody at your church that you can trust. Please. Find somebody for the end of the week. Hey, here's super awkward. You hear weird? In Nashville, when I moved, I knew the psychology about loneliness, and I knew the tendency I have to withdraw, and that my best friends on planet Earth are here. So I called a guy and his wife to my house at the kitchen table. He's a vet. He's got a PhD. He's a smart guy. And he came over. He's like, hey, what's up? He thought we were going to sell him Tupperware or something. And I said, hey, this is weird. I'm sorry. But me and my wife we'd like to ask you to be our friends. Actually, I lied to you. We did this to two couples. One of the couples said, the dude goes, and I quote, bro, you just made this dinner real weird. And the other guy, he had one tear go down this cheek. And he said, no one has ever asked me that question before. We met this week. Years later. We still do. Loneliness is more dangerous to your physiology than smoking. The number one thing that implodes leaders, presidents, doctors, lawyers, fancy pantsers is loneliness. They don't have people they can go to. When I was negotiating with Dave Ramsey, I sat down at his table. We talked about salary. We talked about all this life-changing stuff. And I said, hey, man, who do you listen to? Because I told my wife, if he doesn't have a group, I'm out. And he said, I meet every week with this group of pastors in my local community. I've got this Eagles group. I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this. And I got in the car on the way home and said, me and Dave Ramsey disagree on a lot of stuff. Not a lot, but some stuff. But I trust that guy. I can work for him because he's got people he listens to. One time when I wasn't well, Todd drove all the way to my community and said, your house is okay. Charlie Turner came over to my house and said, hey, man, it's going to be okay. You're not super making sense, but it's going to be okay. And I could probably go down the room in this room. Find people. Here's the last thing. When I was at ACU, I met a guy named Randy Harris. And Randy Harris told me something 10 years ago that's become ever more true. In our current world, pessimism and cynicism so often present themselves as wisdom. And optimism and joy look stupid. Here's what that means. Let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to see somebody that I recognize in there. I don't know. Is there a guy named Tom here? Is anybody named Tom here? There's not a Tom in this whole, seriously. No? Daryl? Surely, this is Lubbock. There's a Daryl here. Bubba, Chris, where? Chris. Chris comes over. Hey, what's up, brother? What's up? How's your weekend? See the news? The weather? See the tweets? I saw the tweets. Bro, it's all coming down. Why? Because of this and the new AI and the algorithms and the climate change and the stuff, and then it's going to be this, and then they're going to come with drones, bro. Drones. And I'm like, I think you're, oh gosh. And then Chris leaves, and I'm like, Chris is a genius. And every pastor and minister is like, all our churches are going away. The kingdom of God is never in trouble. The way we dance around on stage might change, but God's okay. But we look at Chris, and we're like, that dude's a genius. And then here comes Shannon. Hey, Shannon, how's your weekend? And she's like, Shannon rides her bike. She's that kind of person. She rides her bike into work. And then she's like, well, the air conditioner works good. And kids are healthy. And we went on a hike, which is kind of an arrogant way of saying we went on a walk and there was grass on the ground. Whatever. We walked around. And yeah, it's good. And she leaves and we were all like, oh, she doesn't know. It's coming for her. Idiot. Right? Cynicism And sarcasm and pessimism so often look like wisdom. And if you find your news feeds giving you that, it's because they know that keeps you glued. If you ask me what the most important psychological finding of the last 100 years is, Martin Seligman. Optimism is a learned behavior. Pessimism is a learned behavior. What does that mean? Optimism is a choice. It's a decision. It's a daily practice to wake up and find beauty. My friend Nate Dahlstrom was there for me in a couple of dark moments, and I'll forever be grateful for him. He held my hand in a hospital when I didn't know if my wife was going to make it in a hard, hard night. And he taught me real time, you look for beauty. As Brene Brown says, you go finding things in the world that you look for, and they'll find you. If you go looking for ugly and negativity and the end of all things, it'll find you. And if you go looking for beauty and joy and Chris, you're going to find him. Optimism and joy is a choice. So what do we do? Tired of seeing 14-year-olds carrying bags of bricks. I'm tired of holding on to 55-year-olds carrying bags of bricks. My life's not perfect. It's not by a long stretch. I got a long way to go. But I walk lighter now. I don't carry that stuff anymore. And when one of them pops up in my backpack, I know who to call. I got friends and community. My wife and I talk about it. I go see somebody. I've got a pastor that I talk to regularly. It's a practice. Ma'am, you're worth it. Dude, you're worth it. And you're worth it. And you are worth a good night's sleep. And you're worth being loved. And you're worth being hugged. And you're worth somebody saying, I'm sorry that I did that. Every person in this room is worth a good night's sleep and forgiveness and patience and kindness and peace. May the God of the universe bless you and give you deep joy. May the God of the universe be in your heart and in your breath and in your peace. And may you laugh so much and with people you love. May we be known by the love we have for each other and for the hilarious jokes we tell. I added that part. May we be known because we tip like crazy and we say thank you and we say, I'm not talking about her like that. Thank you, though. May the God of the universe bless you and give you peace. Thank you.